Hey everybody, Plushie here. So, I don't even know why I'm making this video so late. Of course, today we're going to be talking about Summer Kama. And I did make a video about Summer Kama versus Space Ishtar already, and it's mostly focused on farming, so I'm going to sort of leave out the details on her farming and just link you to the video instead. And yeah, I know this video feels a bit redundant, but please forgive me for how slow I was. I didn't expect you Olgamer requests to pop out of nowhere. That certainly gave me a lot of content to work with. But yeah, anyways, without further ado, let's get into today's hot take topic of Summer Kama. Her first skill is a 3-turn 30% arts up, as well as a 2-time 3-turn evade, all on a 6-turn cooldown. So very simple, short and sweet, and easy to use. The 30% arts up boosts both her refund and damage as an arts looper, and the evade effect is not wasted at all because it is a lingering 3-turn 2-time effect instead of a 1-turn evade. So you can use this skill as much as possible and use it whenever it is available, which is what you want to do, because with all of these arts AoEs, having this arts boost on high uptime is very beneficial in both challenge quests and farming, of course. So yeah, I like it a lot. There's no awkward timing involved. You just use it whenever. The 6-turn cooldown is fair. It's not anything too crazy. I think even if you want to push the power level, you could have made it 5-turn cooldown, but overall it's really good. Gives her survivability as well in a team, and stacks with solemn defense, so she doesn't really get hit at all in many cases. Yeah, I like this effect a lot. Summer Kama's second skill is a 3-turn 20% MP damage up, as well as an AoE charm that has a 100% chance to land, all on a 7-turn cooldown. So while I praise her first skill for being very easy to use and not timing sensitive, this skill is the exact opposite. It not just has a very, awkward timing that you have to decide on, it also makes you choose between whether you want to take advantage of one effect over the other, while not allowing you to take full advantage of both effects at once. The 20% MP damage up for 3 turns is small, but it is a pretty decent effect if it's able to activate for the full 3 turns, but usually it is not, because her MP has an anti-charm damage mod, so for farming you're usually saving this for the final wave to get a massive damage spike against the highest HP enemies. However, once again, this would waste the 20% MP damage up for the first 2 turns. It would have made more sense if the MP damage up effect is just a 1-turn buff, but it has a way higher number than 20%, for example 50% or even 60%, right? So honestly, I don't like this design at all, and this problem even extends to challenge quests, because AoE charm is now not even just a damage boost for an MP, it's also a really good survival skill. I have to give this credit, because AoE charm is essentially an AoE evade or invul for the entire team, so it's a very good crowd control effect. But because it is a very good crowd control effect, it's also had its cooldown nerfed to 7 turns. So even if you do choose to prioritize her MP damage up effect and just ignore the charm, it's still going to be a little bit affected by the charm because of its cooldown increase. And once again, when you're in a challenge quest, you're forced to choose between whether to use this for survival, for burst damage, or for sustained damage, and I hate that. This is also easily screwed over by magic resist. So for example, if you're fighting against, especially farming, on the last wave there are characters that have like a combination of goddess core and magic resist, characters like Summer Scotty or Quetzalcoatl, then suddenly your massive damage spike on your MP might not happen on a coin toss. So overall, I'm not a big fan of this skill, to be honest. I hope it was designed a little bit better. Summer Kama's third skill is a 50 MP battery, and it also gives her a 3-turn buff that allows her to apply a 3-turn status on the enemy whenever she attacks with her face cards, and that allows her to deal 10% extra damage to the target for per stack. So if the enemy has 3 stacks of this status on them, all of her damage will do 30% extra damage to them, including her MP as well. So her MP is not able to apply this status, but her MP is able to take advantage of this status, and all of this is on a 6-turn cooldown. I think this is an okay effect. Obviously 50 MP battery is very powerful. The Burning Love or Heartfelt Blaze thing is a cool gimmick. You can use this as well in farming sometimes. It's very RNG, but you can do something like card MP to deal 20% extra damage against your highest HP target. But I really don't like to consider it for farming damage because it's, once again, very card RNG dependent and inconsistent in general. This does become a way better effect if she's able to solo, because she's able to use like, you know, a Brave Chain every single turn. She's okay at solos because of her first skill and the AoE charm, but she's not the best at solos. You know, usually you do still want to use her with double Castoria anyways, so unfortunate. I think this skill is a little bit underdeveloped or underexplored. It definitely could have had better potential in my personal opinion. Maybe they should even, you know, allow the MP to cast this or something like that. But as of now, I think it's sort of a cool gimmick that does allow her damage to slowly ramp up if she does a Brave Chain especially. So Summer Kama looks like she has a lot of passives, but essentially 3 of them is the quote-unquote Avenger passive. The passive MP generation by 3.8% per turn though does help with her refund when she is against, you know, less refund friendly enemy waves. So it is pretty helpful in certain cases, and the get more MP from getting hit will benefit her if you are using her for solos. She also has magic resistance A. I always appreciate servants with high magic resistance. It's a little bit of a shame that her goddess core is not the standard one, but she has a better version of a goddess core which gives her charm immune, and charm immune is a super powerful passive. Like, there are fights that where their entire gimmick is based on charm, and just simply bringing her nullifies the entire fight's gimmick. It's a really good effect to have. It gives her a niche against certain bosses. She also has Riding A, which, you know, it's a 10% quick boost. It would have been great if her quick card isn't mediocre and she only has 1 quick card, but in general, I don't think this is a very significant effect at all. And finally, Summer Kama's MP is an AoE 4-hit Arts MP that reduces all enemies' defense by 20% for 3 turns after damage, unfortunately, and it also deals extra damage to charm targets, and it scales with overcharge from 150% all the way up to 200%. So pretty simple. Once again, in terms of how little description this MP has, it's a really good refunding MP. 4 hits on an AoE Arts MP with relatively good base MP gain, and the Avenger passive allows her to loop a lot of stuff. The defense down after damage is such a missed opportunity. This essentially means that it doesn't affect her farming at all, but it does affect her challenge quest because she's able to stack this very consistently, kind of like Space Ishtar's MP damage ramp up. It's both 20%, but this is just in the form of a debuff instead. And the anti-charm, you know, while being quote-unquote universal, it's not nearly as good as something like, for example, Summer Eris's anti-curse, because AoE charms only last a single turn and they usually have very high cooldown, and also there aren't a lot of good like AoE charm supports. They're either like gender specific or really low chances, like 40% or 60%, and usually they're on other DPSs like Europa or Ramaru, and I feel like you'd probably rather bring another art support to bolster her general damage instead of trying to activate this anti-charm multiple times in a row. And obviously it's even harder to pull off in farming to have this proc multiple times. So I kind of hate how this is her main gimmick, because this not just have the problem of being very annoying to trigger, it also has the inconsistency problem I mentioned when talking about her skill 2. I don't think it's nearly as big a problem as something like Space Ishtar's skill 3, which has a built-in RNG factor. This is definitely more affected by what enemies you're looping against, but when this does happen, it is pretty devastating. You know, losing an entire anti-trade damage mod does drop her damage down by a very significant amount, and there really isn't any way to salvage that either. So how do I feel about Summer Kama? First of all, let's talk about her farming. Well, we actually have already in my Summer Kama versus Space Ishtar video, so I'm not going to go into too much detail in today's video, and instead I will just give a basic rundown. So Summer Kama has really good and consistent refund. It still holds up really well in JP to this day. She's able to farm a lot of unorthodox nodes with the right supports, maybe non-333 nodes on even assassins or berserkers. She's able to pull it off. Summer Kama's problem definitely lies more so in her damage. If you're holding her second skill and waiting it for the final wave to have a huge spike in her damage, which you should do, to be honest, her first 2-wave damage is not amazing compared to her other competition. And even when she does spike on the 3rd turn, it's not astronomically high. It's really high, but it's not like fully stacked Summer Kiara high, if you know what I mean. So there are situations where ramp up characters, if they're able to ramp up fully and with the right compositions, they're still able to out damage Summer Kama on the third wave, or any of the later options like Summer Melusine or Summer Ibuki. If they simply hit the anti-trait, they don't need to sacrifice first 2-wave damage to have a spike on the third wave, because they just straight up have anti-trait damage. Especially with NA's Clairvoyance, they all know what's going to happen next year, which is the arrival of Summer Ibuki. And Summer Ibuki essentially is just superior to Summer Kama in almost every case, minus the cases when you're looping against a foreigner for obvious reasons, or if you're looping against a berserker. But in every other case, Summer Ibuki essentially just beats her out in all aspects. She has slightly better refund, she has better damage because of the berserker class, her attack stat isn't even that much lower than Summer Kama, and obviously she has the anti-earth, she has the ability to crit more consistently, and just she has good damage across 3 different waves, even without considering anti-trait, and it's higher than Summer Kama as well. So it's not really looking good for her if you're purely going for utility, but I do think you shouldn't purely go for utility in this game. If a character suffices, they should be good enough, in my opinion. Like, especially if you're willing to invest in MP levels and Grail levels on Summer Kama, a lot of her problems, which is mainly damage, is solved, because now you have a super high level Kama that is able to brute force through these waves that previously, if you had like a lower MP level Kama, would not able to, go through. In terms of challenge quests, Summer Kama has a lot of good perks, personally. I think her first skill is a superb survival skill, synergizes perfectly with Castoria, stacks with the Solemn Defense, you can throw it out whenever to take free hits, especially in a team when the hits aren't going to be focused on one target. Her AoE charm can be used in a pinch as a survival tool, but obviously I feel like in most cases, because Castoria exists, you would be using it for a damage spike, which is also very good, and her general damage is not nearly as much behind compared to other characters in challenge quest scenarios, because she is able to stack 20% defense downs on the enemy. Essentially, she also has a ramp up effect. It just doesn't affect farming, but it does affect challenge quests. So her damage is a lot better even without the anti-charm in challenge quest scenarios. And finally, her third skill's Burning Love mechanic is also pretty powerful. You can try to force to pick all of her cards in a team across 3 turns, and suddenly one of the targets is going to be taking like 50 or even higher % extra damage from all sources dealt from Summer Kama, including her MP. So if you like stack this Burning Love on one target and then you do an anti-charm MP on them, that's gonna be massive amounts of damage. And obviously she has the ability to solo. She's not absolutely insane at it, but she can do it, and if she's able to get a Brave Chain every single turn, that damage ramp up from the Burning Love starts to become kind of absurd. And once again, you can combine that with her anti-charm MP. So suddenly her challenge quest performance is looking a lot better, and she definitely occupies her own niches. Her face card damage, like compared to Space Ishtar's boost on her extra attack only whenever she uses her MP, that Burning Love boosts all of her face cards, and it does last more than a turn, and it doesn't purely rely on her using her MP either. So I like her in challenge quests a lot more than her in farming these days in JP. She's definitely holds up very well, especially considering she's art, so you're able to pair her with the best challenge quest support in the game, Castoria. And not that many interesting things to say about her challenge quest, because she functions very simply. She doesn't have any special tools to deal with weird gimmicks. She doesn't have like invul pierce, defense ignore, buff removal resist, buff removal, or even any anti-trait that isn't anti-charm. So there isn't any like particular things to talk about, other than maybe you can slot her against bosses that are very heavily focused on charm, maybe against another Kama, but that means she can't charm the other Kama either, which is kind of funny. Or someone like Aphrodite, for example, in Olympus, then yeah, she might perform better than other options as well. But in general, she's just going to serve you as a really, really solid AoE arts damage dealer that can face almost every class except for Moon Cancer. in conclusion, Summer Kama is definitely a character that suffered from clairvoyance a lot. A lot of people dismissed her value just because they're waiting for Summer Ibuki the next year. And Summer Kama, even to this day on JP, still holds up very well as a servant in general. She's still one of the best arts loopers in the game. Just because she loses to some of the strongest arts loopers in the game doesn't mean she's still not one of them. She's definitely still one of them. That's why people still compare her to them. She still has superb refund with really good damage on one of the waves with her spike damage, and particularly it scales really well with event damage CEs as well as Black Grill. So if you're not very insistent on running 6 CE compositions, Summer Kama also has really good damage for that spike turn as well. So I think Summer Kama, her reputation suffered a lot from clairvoyance, and I don't think she's absolutely not worth pulling for just because of Summer Ibuki at all. Particularly if you really like Summer Kama, she's going to be one of the most worthwhile investments that you put grails and MP levels into still, and she's going to hold up very well even today in JP on the 8th anniversary. So anyways, hope you guys enjoyed the video. I know it's a lot more brief because I already made a video talking about Summer Kama essentially before, and despite this being a hot take, I know the take isn't really hot, and it doesn't have a lot of takes either, so I really apologize for this. It's not my finest work, I have to say, but because I don't have a lot of stuff to upload and talk about before the 1 Gina event, I think it is fitting to at least try to partially fulfill my promise on making a Summer Kama hot take. So hope you guys enjoyed the video. I know there's only like 1 to 2 days left for her banner, but if you want to go for her, wish you the best of luck, and I'll see you guys in the next one.